saying when Purdy was on, he was lighting up defenses. When things got particularly tough around him, he wasn't nearly as great, making me wonder if he's able to consistently elevate those around him. Sounds like a fair question. Is he a quarterback who can overcome adversity, or will he be limited by it in his career? Where are those goalposts when you need them, Bruce? Some people wanted to know how he would deal with adversity years ago. So, Brew, Coach saw it yesterday. What is this? Are you giving him the pass?
Iowa Mafia, baby. I'm still with you.
Okay, all right.
Contrary to popular opinion on this show.
Well, I mean, hold on.
Nick.
Coach,
I don't know who else actually.
Coach, yesterday, Greg wasn't here.
Opinion.
Yesterday, did it feel like Brew was falling out of love with Brock Purdy?
It didn't feel like you were in love.
Thank you.
I'm fair.
Exactly. So,
I'm fair on
would the 49ers
best.
regret paying Brock Purdy?
Well, you know where I'm at.
Yeah, that he's going
And Coach talked about it earlier.
Discount.
Mahomes, if Mahomes took $45 million, then maybe Brock Purdy can take $45 million. That's all I'm saying. So that's what I'm trying to do. But let's say they pay him top of the market. He wants his money. He hadn't been paid. I don't think it's a death knell because the cap goes up. Philadelphia has shown you can have a high-priced quarterback, and I know Jalen's contract hadn't kicked
really
in
kicked
yet,
in. Right.
But still, they got everything, right? And so you can still add great players around a highly paid quarterback. And look, he's shown you that he's got poise. He's shown you he can play in the playoffs. We got his playoff numbers coming up. But he's performed well in the playoffs, 4 wins already, got you to a Super Bowl. And you might say, well, Jimmy G got us to a Super Bowl too.
Yeah, that's what.
But they got there. But you remember that, Nick? In fairness, they got there kind of despite Jimmy G. In the playoffs, they hardly threw the football. Didn't they throw it only 8 times in one game?
Yes, but
Purdy actually had led comebacks, led game-winning drives in the second half against top teams to get them to the Super Bowl.
Was even throwing trick shot passes off defenders' helmets into
I mean, Purdy. And here's the other thing: this year, with no Brandon Ayuk, with Debo's not an Avenger anymore, as far as I'm concerned. He's good. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but he's not.
And Debo's probably going to be gone next year as well.
So, right. Yep. And no Christian McCaffrey for the most part. Look at this passer rating. Was he fantastic? As good as first 2 years? No. But his passer rating still was higher than these guys. We got this graphic, I believe,
others,
coming
I'm
on.
sure
it's some big names on there. If we ever see it, it'll be. Oh, we don't. I'll read.
Take your word for
higher passer rating than Stafford, Patrick Mahomes. You mentioned C.J. Stroud.
His passer rating was good. This graphic will have his passer rating. We put up his previous part of his career to last year. What you will see, I think we have this one, is he was, of course, worse across the board. And the claim to fame early was that he was a winner. The claim to fame the year before this one was the great numbers along with winning. Right. So his rookie year, he was a winner. He was in the 2023, he had the amazing numbers to go along with the wins. And then 2024, he had neither. And I feel, Coach, like if you have to hesitate, then you don't pay the guy. If it's not a no-brainer, and the people you guys will throw at me is Trevor. For me, Trevor, I wouldn't have had to hesitate. Now, it doesn't right now look like it was the right call. I understand that. But at that moment, the guy who had been the #1 pick of the draft, a guy who in year 2 made the playoffs, played great, won a playoff game, and in year 3, they were 8-3, and then he got hurt, I would have been like, yes, of course I'm paying him. I get that you guys almost put Trevor out of it because
But this ain't Dak, Tua.
Right, but I wouldn't have paid those guys. That's the point I'm making.
That's fair.
And so, like Burrow, Josh, Patrick, obviously, there's no hesitation.
There's like 4 guys like that, though.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
And go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, so for me, like, will they regret it? I think they will. Simply because of what we're talking about right now. Those top guys are automatic, no-brainers, no questions asked. 32 teams had an opportunity to pay them, they would pay them because they're that much of a difference maker. Now, with Brock Purdy, the challenge is going to be what we saw this year. can be what we will see moving forward.
Because you're not gonna have as stacked of a team.
Yes, and I didn't think he played bad, but he clearly didn't play good enough to where they were able to overcome some of those issues that they're gonna have. They're not gonna have all these guys moving forward once you decide to pay Brock Purdy, and even if you don't decide to pay him, you're still not gonna have all these guys.
Okay. This is going to be such a messy conversation because they keep making it so messy and unnecessarily. First off, Nick's whole way of thinking, how he admits that he would have been wrong about this one situation, the fact that he doesn't use it as a reference point to invalidate this whole kind of, metric of whether a quarterback is good or not, it should give you pause in the first place. But yes, right, there's no hesitation about Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. Again, glad we got that figured out. Glad we solved that riddle, guys. Like, that's not saying much. Okay? So, yes, we got it. And also this whole question in terms of, 49ers regret paying Brock. Again, how much money are we talking about? I also love how it says a 96.1 passer rating, worst of his career. And then again, we obviously know Patrick Mahomes' passer rating, was, what did they say it officially was? A 93.5. So, we can kind of stop with this whole end-all, be-all thing. Listen, I love to use Patrick Mahomes as the example here because it's so funny how we want to defend Patrick Mahomes for the fact that his numbers went down, okay? Because, he didn't have anyone, and there was dealing with injuries. So did the 49ers. So did Brock Purdy with all of his weapons. And when the weapons were there, they weren't the same, like Debo, Ayuk, etc., which has already been well established. But again, he still played really well. He had a higher passer rating. And again, this is where Shanahan and Andy Reid compared. Look at Brock Purdy. Yak, yards after catch. Patrick Mahomes, number 3. Brock Purdy, 20th. 20th. That is coaching. That is coaching right there, okay? Intended air yards per pass attempt, 8.4 compared to 6.2. So again, Brock Purdy's throwing farther passes for less yards after catch than a Patrick Mahomes, and yet he still put up better numbers than Patrick Mahomes in a lot of categories. And so this whole idea, this is what's so nonsense. Is Purdy the quarterback who can overcome adversity, or will he be limited by it? Show me the adversity that Patrick Mahomes overcame. Show me the adversity. Did he overcome the adversity in the Super Bowl? Because I don't think so. I don't think so. And don't tell me about what he did in 2019 and 20, or he's already a Super Bowl winner. That does not matter. That does not matter right now. So stop using that. That is the biggest cop-out. We know Patrick Mahomes is special. We know Patrick Mahomes is great. We know Patrick Mahomes has won. We know that. We know that. And you know what? If the 49ers had a little bit better of a defense in 23, then Brock Purdy is a Super Bowl winner too. There you have it. So just stop. Stop with the team accomplishments as an indicator as to how special an individual quarterback is, unless they've done something incredibly special in maybe said Super Bowl, start to finish, where they balled out like a Jalen Hurts performance. Just saying. But this is just kind of ridiculous. Their special teams was a joke. You want them to overcome the special teams too? You want them to overcome the defense? You want them to overcome all the offensive injuries? You want to have them overcome Shanahan's inability to figure out what to do in the red zone? That's just all on Brock Purdy? Because it's absurd. It's absurd. The 49ers had the 29th ranked defense. 29th. And the 13th ranked offense. In 2023, Kansas City Chiefs had the 15th ranked offense and the 2nd ranked defense. In 2024, 15th ranked offense, the 4th ranked defense. These things matter. They were putting a tremendous amount on Brock Purdy's shoulders. More than Patrick Mahomes was having asked to do. I'm not making the argument that Brock Purdy's better than Patrick Mahomes. I'm not making that argument. But to use this past year as an indicator of Brock Purdy's inability to overcome a situation, did Joe Burrow overcome the limitations of that Bengals offense? Of the Bengals defense, excuse me? No. No, he did not. No, he did not. So this is just nonsense. It's just so funny that we continue to put Brock Purdy on such a narrow microscope. And it's just really kind of absurd. It really is. It really, really is. Listen, do I think that they should want to, make Brock Purdy the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You don't really want to do that for any quarterback. Even if it was Patrick Mahomes, even if Patrick Mahomes was up for a new contract, you would not want to pay him like $65 million, $70 million, or whatever the heck these contracts are going up to at this point. You would not want to do that. Because you would be like, well, we need a no line, we need this, we need that. So to constantly frame this argument as an indictment on Brock Purdy, it's just kind of absurd. And so were you expecting him, worst of career? First off, he's only been a starter for so many years, right? This was his third season where you can actually register a passer rating. And so one of them is going to have to be his worst. And is it a surprise that the worst of his career is when his offense was the most injured? And yet it was still manageable? It was still above average? Still pretty good, relatively speaking? If we're going to give excuses, again, for Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, etc., well, then Brock Purdy deserves some of those excuses as well. It's really just that simple. It's really just that simple. So it's just so tiring to constantly see this narrative and then them trying to cook the books in a way. Because again, like I always say, you want to use these stats as an indicator of him not looking good. We can do the same thing for Patrick Mahomes. And again, him winning in 2019 and 22, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. There's been a downward trajectory. And his defense has significantly helped him. And he's got a better head coach. And has Travis Kelce and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're like, oh, wait, he had a great defense in 2023, Brock Purdy. Then that defense didn't show up. That defense didn't get the job done. Greenlaw got injured. Et cetera, et cetera. This year, obviously a disaster. Special teams, obviously a disaster. It was Brock Purdy's fault that Christian McCaffrey fumbled. It was Brock Purdy's fault that Greenlaw got injured. It was Brock Purdy's fault that there was a muff punt. Like, that's Brock Purdy's fault now? I don't understand. And don't give me this idea that, like, you need this quarterback who can, like, overcome all this adversity. I mean, realistically, consistently name the quarterbacks who overcome adversity in the NFL right now. Name them. Name them. I don't really know if you can really say that there's one quarterback who consistently overcomes the adversity. Do not tell me Patrick Mahomes. It's just not true. It's just not true. Tell me what he did to overcome the adversity in the Super Bowl. Tell me. Tell me what he did throughout this season to overcome the adversity. Or was it his defense? And awesome play calling and play designs by Andy Reid, where you say that Patrick Mahomes has all of these injuries, no one to throw to, bad wide receivers, yet is top 3 in yak in the NFL. That's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. And again, that's Andy Reid. So if anything, Andy Reid is the one who overcame all of these injuries and adversity, not Patrick Mahomes, as we could see by his own passer rating. Okay, great. He made some great throws in the fourth quarter. Congratulations. I expect that. So that explains why he played poorly in the beginning of the game. Like, huh? Like, it's okay to be consistent in terms of how we evaluate these quarterbacks and what we expect them to be. Just again, Was Josh Allen able to overcome the adversity of bad play calling, bad game plan, porous defense, receivers dropping passes? No. Was Lamar Jackson? No. Joe Burrow? No. I mean, name the quarterback this season that overcame like on-field adversity. Off-field adversity, the only quarterback that overcame it was Jalen Hurts, actually. He's the one that was dealing with all the nonsense. Coach Sirianni, is he going to be fired? Jalen Hurts can't throw. Like, he overcame that adversity. He then also overcame the adversity of his running game being taken away and being concussed. He overcame that adversity. That's pretty cool, but you could make the argument, well, he didn't overcome the adversity in 23. Sure. Can't expect him to do it every single year, I guess. So we're expecting Brock Purdy to be able to do it? Huh? Does that make sense? No. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it does not. I just don't get the continued conversations around Brock Purdy. I really, really don't. And we constantly want to emphasize and highlight the wrong things about him. When in reality, like, look at these numbers. The record is irrelevant because his defense was such trash. Just like it was for Joe Burrow. And then a 65.9% completion percentage is pretty good considering where he was at with all of the injuries. Okay, that pretty much puts him in, because right between 65 and 66% is the bulk. Is right around where, like, the top 10. Like, it's always tough when you just do rankings. We always do these rankings wrong, honestly, because it really should be a bell-shaped curve so you can see where the bulk is. And so essentially he's right in that range of what would be considered, right at top 10, right before you really get to that top 10. So essentially he's right within range of top 10. That's awesome considering all the injuries he's had and all the weapons that the team has, lacked throughout that season and the inconsistency of it. Again, Patrick Mahomes is 67.5, but as I showed you, he's throwing shorter passes. Just saying. And yet, again, Patrick Mahomes has 3,928. Brock Purdy has 3,864 passing yards with significantly less yak. If he got even just a fraction of the rate of yak that Mahomes got, he'd have more passing yards. Yards per attempt, 8.5. Patrick Mahomes, 6.8. Brock Purdy, 20 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes, 26. Again, all of this stuff is within range. All of it. All of it, all of it, all of it. So I just don't understand. We've seen what he's been able to do when you give him a good enough roster. Now, again, am I making the argument that Brock Purdy's this big-time, show-me-the-money player? No. He could have played better in the Super Bowl. Absolutely. Which is why using Jalen Hurts is another great reference point. We saw Jalen Hurts elevate. But again, Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes in 2 Super Bowls. So that's pretty impressive. So you just can't expect every quarterback to be able to do that. The difference can't be, well, he either shows up or he doesn't, and if he doesn't, he's done. Goodbye. Because we can look at a lot of these quarterbacks having pretty decent stats and decent numbers. That's why you can't just go by the box score. Because again, by this logic, we could make the argument that Kyler Murray is up there with Patrick Mahomes. And that's not my argument either. But you could be like, well, Kyler Murray doesn't have the weapons that, that Mahomes has had, or the coach, or Jalen Hurts, or whatever. Like, that's why it's always a more nuanced conversation. That's why I always hate just looking at something like this. That's why I always try my best to combat it with some of these other more stats that people don't ever really use that often, like yak, etc. Because it just adds another dimension of it all. But it's never just about the stats. It's never just about, well, this guy has 257 passing yards per game and a 66% completion percentage, and that's slightly higher or on par with Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, therefore he's as good as those. That's not necessarily what it's about either. It's about how is the offense run? How is the execution? The levels of throws. When you do throw an incompletion, what does the incompletion look like? How did the game unfold? Were you part of the solution? Were you part of the problem? Were you neutral? Did you have a run game? How was your defense? Did your defense constantly put you on your back foot? Which is why when you compare the numbers of, say, like a Patrick Mahomes to a Brock Purdy this year, the fact that these numbers even remotely close, you're kind of like, well, that's concerning. You had a significantly better defense. Your team was asking you to do less. Brock Purdy had to keep overcoming a bad defense, bad special teams, missed field goals. They were on their like 5th field goal kicker or whatever, their 5th running back. Like, those things add up. Those things add up. And there were moments when Brock Purdy absolutely failed. Absolutely. That you could point and be like, what was that? But we can point to a lot of these quarterbacks making where we're like, what the heck was that? What was that? What throw was that? Josh Allen, Lamar, Mahomes, etc., etc. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. But to reduce it to this sentence, is Purdy a quarterback who can overcome adversity, or will he be limited by it? Okay. Well, at this point, it feels like maybe only Tom Brady is the only quarterback in the history of the NFL who's been able to overcome adversity at a high rate. Outside of it all, we have endless examples of all of these quarterbacks coming up short. All of them. So you can't just use their ability to overcome adversity as this like, you know, trump card of aha. That's what makes a special quarterback. No, that can be part of it. And can you elevate in the playoffs? If anything, that's probably the more important question. Can you elevate in the playoffs? And when the moment calls for it, can you get it done? Especially when you're not in a perfect situation, when you're not throwing to a wide open receiver. Can you overcome it? And quite frankly, the only quarterback that has now done it in multiple Super Bowl runs was actually technically Jalen Hurts. And I'm not making the argument that Jalen Hurts is the number one quarterback. If anything, that's another example of why trying to figure out how good a quarterback is so much more complicated than people give it credit for. It's not just, well, hey, this guy can throw real far. Hey, this guy's really fast and physical. Hey, this guy plays great in the playoffs. Hey, this guy plays awesome when he's got a great team around him. Hey, this guy can actually probably do more with less, but also is kind of reckless at times as well. It's just, it's a layered conversation that I think if we really knew the answer to how to solve that riddle, it would be a different NFL. But the reality is we don't have that. Which is why someone like Dak Prescott did get paid the most money. You know, that's why they are still willing to give someone like a Deshaun Watson $200 million guaranteed or whatever the heck it was. It's a messy equation. But we love to just try to be like, well, look, in 22 to 23, he was this, and now in 24, he's not. Nah, that means he's not good. He's only so good when he's got the Avengers. Okay, give Patrick Mahomes a bad defense and take away his Avengers. Show me what he does. Show me all those playoff games that he wins. I can't wait to watch. I can't wait to watch. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Brock Purdy? Do you think the 49ers will regret paying Brock Purdy? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way. Let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.